Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
A new website has been launched to give anyone working with children the skills to identify potential mental health issues. It comes after the number of children admitted to hospital for such issues has doubled over the last 4 years. Now one mother has taken matters into her own hands after her 13-year-old daughter repeatedly attempted to take her own life. Nicola Dye has put together a petition which has so far gathered more than 30,000 signatures and written to the Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt to get help. In a moment, we'll be speaking to the woman appointed last year as the government's first ever mental health champion for schools. But first, this report from our health and social care correspondent, Victoria MacDonald.
This has been a good week for Olivia Cullen. The 13-year-old has a new puppy, an early birthday present. She's feeling positive. But this is not always the case. Olivia has had an eating disorder, suffers from anxiety, has self-harmed and has tried to end her own life.
I think it's just so many different things, so many thoughts going around my head, and you get to a point where you can't cope with it anymore.
Yet extraordinarily, both she and her mother wanted to speak out. They wanted others to know they are not alone.
I just think I'm going to try and focus on what's happening right now, but hopefully I'm coming through it. But I know that I could still have bad days, but hopefully it's going to get better from here.
It's not so long ago, though, that her mother, Nicola Dye, took a picture of her daughter. It's a photo taken in desperation of Olivia lying on a trolley in A&E, having tried to take her own life for the 4th time in 7 weeks.
It was just a photo that I'd taken without really thinking at the time. Just my partner had said, "How is she?" And I just had no words. I couldn't describe it, so I just took this picture and sent it to him. And it just summed up everything. It just summed up just how awful and horrible and just uncomfortable it is to be sat there looking at your child. And Olivia was like that for about 20 hours. She was not unconscious. They were making sure she was rousable, but that's what she was like.
It's just not nice to look at, thinking that I was like that.
Does it make you feel distressed, or do you say to yourself, why? Or can you think that you can still think about why you did it, or what sort of thoughts?
I think at the time when I saw that picture, I was just like, well, I shouldn't have even been there when that was taken. I shouldn't have even been alive when that was taken. But then, when now I'm feeling a bit better, it's just it just makes me feel quite upset that people let me do that to myself when I was in hospital. Is meant to be keeping me safe when I'm there, and they couldn't even keep me safe.
Because the fact is, the 4th attempt on her own life happened after waiting 5 days in hospital to see a member of the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Service, or CAMHS team. What's more, after each of those 4 attempts, her mother was told this behaviour was not enough for her to be given inpatient psychiatric help. They were sent home.
From the assessment that they made and from the meeting, it wouldn't be somewhere that I would want to send Olivia, because I was told, she would get worse if she comes here. So who would want to send their child knowingly she would get worse, she would learn more things, there would be more significant self-harm and suicide attempts.
Now Mrs. Dye has written to the Health Secretary and started a petition after being told her daughter could have just 1 hour of therapy a week.
And speaking to other parents, realising that it's not just us that are going through that is kind of comforting, but also makes me feel sad, because you realise that it's a bigger problem, instead of just thinking about yourself and our family situation, that there's a lot of other families in the same situation.
And it is sadly true that they are not alone. Earlier this month, the report found about 1 in 10 young people have mental health problems. That's 720,000 children and teenagers. Yet 1 in 5 of those referred for treatment is turned away by CAMHS teams.
It's very sad that young people in England today are not getting the mental health care that they need. They are in distress and are reaching crisis too often, and that shouldn't be the case. Their mental health needs should be taken as seriously as any kind of physical health needs.
Olivia's CAMS team told us they are working to provide the best services possible within the allocated funding. But Olivia is still not able to go to school, and further therapy that had been promised for this month has now been delayed. What she can do, though, has done, is talk to help not just herself, but also others.
Victoria MacDonald reporting. Well, we are joined now by the woman who was appointed last year as the government's first ever mental health champion for schools, Natasha Devon. Natasha Devon, to what extent have we suddenly come across something which is just very extreme and not at all normal? Or to what extent do you find in the schools that you're going into, actually there is a terrible dearth of provision?
When we talk about crisis point, as long ago as 2010, charities like Young Minds and my own organisation, the Self-Esteem Team, were asking young people, what is it that's making life difficult for you? And the responses that came were academic and exam pressure, sexual pressure arising from pornography, social media, the internet, less quality family time. The response to that was that these young people must lack resilience, character and grit, that they're making a fuss over nothing. And their voices were silenced, their concerns were ignored. Now we're paying the price because it's been allowed to reach crisis point, and we've reached a stage where 1 in 10 young people has a diagnosed mental illness. There are many more that never even reach diagnosis but struggle behind closed doors, and we see that in schools every single day.
So you're feeding this information into the system, into the ministry. I mean, and I'm wondering, is there a response?
There is. What I'm specifically working with the Department of Education to do is try and make schools environments that are conducive to good mental health. I believe that we've created a culture that has made it more difficult than ever to be a young person.
But some have reached a level, like Olivia, beyond that which a school could naturally deal with. She needs therapy. She's getting an hour a week. That is simply not acceptable.
That's a question of resources and funding, and that's something that I know is definitely on the government agenda. But when we talk about parity of esteem, we don't just mean resources. This is about parity of understanding. Mental health training is a tiny provision of compulsory training for general practitioners. Teachers, for example, are taught extensively about safeguarding, but not necessarily about how to spot early signs of mental illness. There's still huge stigma in society generally.
But can A&E even deal with mental illness, given that's where many of them end up?
We need to understand it. Everybody who's working with young people, who knows young people, we need to understand it better first so that we can deal with it before it reaches crisis point. In the meantime, yes, resources and funding are needed for young people like Olivia.
Natasha Devon, thank you very much indeed for coming in. And if you or anybody you know has been affected by the issue, you can go to channel4.com/news.